All right, we are live. Hello, everybody. Welcome. It's been a while since we did a live video. There's Kiwanji in the background. And we're going to be talking today about yoga. Purpose of this video really is the same as the purpose of the upcoming yoga classes that I'm going to be doing. Just trying to spread the real yoga and share the wisdom and the love of that beautiful path with you. I'm going to be teaching yoga classes every Saturday at 12 minutes past 12 UK time. And some people are here already. Good. And yeah, so I wanna talk about that, and I want to answer any questions that people have about yoga. What prompted this was that the other week I did a yoga class that was pretty awful, really. I'm really hesitating to say that because in case the teacher who taught that class sees this, But let's be honest. The state of yoga teaching in the West is just dire. It's appalling. And in a way, yoga was like my first love. In a way, it saved my life. And it's what led me to the healing path, and it's what led me to learning how to heal trauma. It's what led me to probably my son would not have been here. Q1 wouldn't be here if it wasn't for yoga. So it's had a very prominent and important role in my life. Those of you that haven't met Kimber, meet Kimber.
Hi.
Do you want to say a few words about the yoga? I'm not in the mood right now.
No, I can. I'm really, really happy about this. I have never seriously practiced yoga consistently in the past, but I have done my fair share of reading books about it, watching YouTube videos randomly, attending studio classes, and I always enjoyed it. I always thought it was fun. Something in it always drew me, and I benefited from it in ways I could feel something in it. But it wasn't until I learned yoga from Ben that it really clicked and became much more clear, much less confusing, much more beneficial. After the very first class that he led me through, it was like this light bulb went off, and I just went on and on and on to him about what a big difference he is as a teacher than every other teacher I've ever experienced at all these different studios that I've visited. So I am very, very happy to be a part of this and supporting him to do this, and have really been encouraging, like, let's get your yoga really back out there because the world they need this healing, they need this understanding. So I'm really happy to be a part of this, and I'm really happy that he's doing it.
Yeah, I am too, actually. I didn't teach for a very long time. It's been like 10 years during which time I've only taught yoga on retreats. When I've done a retreat, there's been a yoga class or two each day, partly because when I teach yoga, I really am kind of passionate about communicating and transmitting the essence of it. And it's not so easy to do that in a short class, in a one-off short class. So I hope very much that people um, will come regularly to these classes. If you can come every week or at least a couple of times a month. The way I teach is to really communicate and to share as much as I can of not only the not only the practice and not only the theory also, but the essence of yoga, you know, because really yoga is very simple. It's about turning inwards. It's about turning inwards. And one could say that all yoga is a series of practices that have been designed to facilitate and to support this journey inwards. The problem I have with most Western yoga teaching these days is that it doesn't do that. In fact, it does the opposite. There's usually music playing, which of course brings us out of ourselves. Our energy and our attention is, whether we're aware of it or not, is then directed outwards to the music, to the external. Usually, very often the yoga teacher can't, be quiet for more than a few seconds at a time. So there's this constant monologue going on while you're trying to practice your yoga. And so in these classes that I'm doing, I will be giving you an experience. You will finish the class very refreshed, very rejuvenated, very relaxed, and you will also receive something that will be permanent. It won't just be a temporary experience that will wear off after a few hours or a few days. You'll get some wisdom, you'll get some resources which will support you in all areas of your life. And that's really what yoga teaching is all about. When I teach, I don't do yoga. I don't stand there and do yoga and you have to copy what I'm doing, because that's not really teaching, that's showing. What I'm doing when I'm teaching yoga is I'm using my voice and talking you through what you do. I might demonstrate the odd thing here and there, but mostly you're doing the yoga with my guidance, which is a really important distinction to make. It's also important to understand that most yoga teachers, and look, I'm not saying all this to attack anyone. I'm not trying to put people down here. I'm just stating what I see as facts. The condition of yoga teaching in the West is pretty appalling. There is not a clear distinction in the yoga world between practicing yoga and teaching yoga, so that many yoga teachers are simply glorified yoga practitioners. They're flexible, they're what they think of as good at yoga, and so they think that they can teach it, but teaching is a skill in and of itself. And most yoga teacher trainings do not train people how to teach well, you know. So anyway, that's what we're doing. The classes will be every Saturday at 12 minutes past 12, 12 minutes past midday, UK time.
Okay.
What are you doing?
Nothing. Just reading.
And you can subscribe, you can pay for the classes, you can pay for one class or a package of classes on my website. The link is coming up in the comments. If anybody has any questions about yoga or about anything else that I do or that we do, then you can ask in the comments section. Here comes the link. Natalie's saying, "Oh, good." Natalie's saying, "Oh, good. Have always felt yoga is a silent place to go within, and have often been disappointed when I go to a class and it's full of sound, constant commentary." Yeah. Another problem with yoga these days is that it's a spiritual path, it's a spiritual discipline, it's a spiritual practice. And when I started teaching yoga, this is 20 years ago in 2000, in the year 2000, I was deeply traumatized. I had been on the receiving end of a great deal of abuse in my childhood, a little bit of which I wrote about yesterday on Facebook. And I hadn't done any work to heal any of that stuff. Since then, what I've come to understand, especially through my work as a healer now, is that the chakra system is a very useful tool through which we can understand our development. Now, yoga, in a manner of speaking, what we could say is that what yoga and any real spiritual practice does raises our vibration, raises our energy, and it raises the center of our awareness so that we operate from a higher center. For example, we can operate from the heart, we can operate from the third eye, we can operate from the crown. And this is what yoga does. For example, when you stand on your head in Sirsasana, the headstand, your energy is literally pulled down into the crown of the head, activating the crown. Now, the problem for many yoga teachers today, when they are doing more and more yoga practice and trying to share that, is that they are literally activating the higher centers when the lower centers, which have been impacted by trauma, have not been healed yet. So my experience was that I started teaching yoga. My lower centers, which were full of trauma, full of all kinds of, let's just say, negative energy, were massively activated, and all kinds of problems started coming up for me. I found it difficult to concentrate. My emotional state was in turmoil. I became anxious. I became depressive. Why? Because that's part of the path. When you stir the pot, then all of the sediment at the bottom rises. And it's very, very important to understand that if you're going to do any kind of spiritual practice, you will need to address your childhood and ancestral trauma. And we have a lot of that stuff. So part of the problem with yoga teaching in the West is that people haven't done that. And they don't have the resources of internal peace and deeper wisdom and a resource of unconditional love as a reference point for their teaching. And so very often what you get is somebody that is a little bit all over the place, just doing yoga in front of you and playing music to kind of fill in the gaps. And sometimes those classes can be beneficial. Sometimes they can actually do harm and that's the reason why in the yoga world there are a growing number of injuries happening. You know, it's very well known, and there are many people in the world today that think that yoga is dangerous because of this large number of so-called yoga injuries. The real yoga, when yoga is taught and practiced properly, does the opposite of injuring you or harming you. It's healing. These injuries would come about when the practitioner or the teacher doesn't understand how to practice, how to teach really in the healing way, in the proper way. So, and I'll share with you a little bit, you know, about the essence of yoga, which if that essence is present. Yeah, thanks. Great question, Daniel. I'll talk about that with pleasure. I'll share a little bit about the essence of yoga a little bit later in the call. First, let me just address this question about tobacco. So, I started as a yoga teacher. I wanted to be an actor, and I was an actor for a few years. I went to college and studied theatre and left college and worked as an actor for a few years. And during that time, I began to practice yoga, do some classes, fell in love with it because I really needed to relax. I was a mess. I was a big mess. And yoga gave me something that I had never experienced really before. It put me back in touch with myself. So I fell more and more in love with it. Eventually went to India and in the end did a lot of training to become a yoga teacher. And then over the years since then, my path has led me in many different directions. I have done a lot of work with South American tribes, for example, who practice plant medicine and so on. I've also studied lots of different spiritual paths, lots of different religions, Qigong, Tai Chi, martial arts, and so on. So my approach to spirituality is quite broad, and of course I also have Celtic ancestry. So my spirituality, my path, is influenced by a lot of different things. And one of the things that has had a great impact on me is plant medicine. And so my understanding of tobacco and my relationship with tobacco has come from the work that I've done, particularly with one tribe from Ecuador, with whom I've done a lot of ceremonies, a lot of rituals, including 2 vision quests. Now, tobacco as a plant has been used as medicine for thousands of years by tribes and cultures all over the world. And when I say thousands of years, and nobody knows how long, it's one of the oldest plant medicines. It has healing properties, and it also has very, very powerful properties for prayer. So that, you're probably familiar. If you're not familiar with tobacco, you probably are familiar with it in popular culture, in being used as prayer in peace pipes, in native tribes. Daniel's question is, could you discuss tobacco and its effects on the heart and throat chakras? Right, okay. I'm not a doctor and I don't know from a scientific perspective what the influence of tobacco is on the body, but I know it from my experience. And I also have to tell you at this point, there are different kinds of tobacco. In the same way that if we talk about water, we can be talking about the water that comes from the spring flowing out of the heart of a mountain, pure and pristine. We could also be talking about tap water, which is completely dead water and has fluoride and chlorine and has been refined. They say that the water that comes out of a tap has been through the human body 7 times, right? Water that comes flowing out of a mountain is clean and alive. In the same way, tobacco can be organic tobacco that has been cultivated by a tribe for thousands of years, and in that sense is comparable to spring water. But we could also be talking about a packet of Marlboro Reds, which have something like 300 chemicals in them. Some to make you addicted to the Marlboro Reds, some to make the paper burn slower or quicker, I don't remember which. 300 chemicals, so completely different things, okay? I'm talking here about the organic, hand-grown tobacco that has been used for thousands of years. The effect of that tobacco is healing. And I've seen research to suggest that various viruses like colds, flus, perhaps even the so-called coronavirus, are, I don't know if it was that the symptoms of those sicknesses are healed by tobacco, or if the tobacco helps the body and the immune system to ward off those things. But that's certainly my experience. Tobacco has helped me to remain healthy, helps me to avoid getting any colds, any flus, and it cleanses my lungs, it cleanses my throat. Of course, you have to understand that, like anything, medicine can be poison if you drink too much water. then it can kill you. And any medicine used in the wrong way, for example, recreationally, instead of with a sacred intention, can do harm. So I think that'll do about tobacco. Daniel, if you have any more questions, feel free to send me a message about it. Natalie says, I've had some intense trauma release experiences in classes where it was not a safe place for it. Right, that's another good point. Most yoga teachers do not have any experience in or awareness of what trauma even is, really. In fact, very few people do these days. So, you know, a lot of trauma is held somatically in the body and in the tissue. And yes, deep stretching and other yoga practices can stir that up and can release it. I wouldn't say that it necessarily heals it fully, but it can certainly bring it to our awareness, and it can certainly partly heal that trauma, in which case it's very useful. I thoroughly recommend that if you're practicing yoga in a serious way, you combine it with some kind of deep inner work, whether that's working with a therapist, a good therapist, or a healer, hopefully doing some kind of trauma work, at least researching your own ancestral history and looking into your childhood and the way you were raised, the relationship between your parents and the relationship that you had with your parents, all of that kind of stuff. Because really it's just a fact that anybody that's alive in the West in 2020 has a great deal of trauma, a great deal of trauma. We're all basically suffering from PTSD. And I mean that literally. I'm not exaggerating. We're all suffering from PTSD. Nolo Baldu says, greetings from Switzerland. I too have experienced sexual abuse. However, all my memories are still dissociated to the point where I have no memories of it, apart from distinct body memories, and therefore cannot heal since the state of collapse that came with this experience cannot be solved, and therefore I cannot heal. I'm at a point in my life where I have to heal in order to be finally free and live instead of surviving. For the first time in my life, that is, it seems like the traumatized part within me just won't let me have access to those memories. Might it be visual? I want to heal. I want to remember. How did you overcome dissociation, and how did you get your memories back? Okay, so the first point here, Nolo, right, and not even trauma therapy of 4 years helped bringing those memories back. The first point, Nolo, is that you don't need to remember anything in order to heal it. The actual trauma that is in your body has nothing to do with what happened. The consequences of the trauma are the problem, and the trauma itself, that is historical, is basically irrelevant. And this is really good news for everybody, because if we had to remember everything that in order to heal it, then we would simply not be able to heal the vast majority of the stuff that we need to heal. I don't want to go too much into this because really this video is about yoga. What I will say is that in my experience, there are really just are not that many people that are let me put it another way. In the same way that there are a large proportion of yoga teachers that are not really doing a very good job, same is true of therapists, the same is true of taxi drivers, the same is true of piano teachers, the same is true of anything, anyone, any vocation, any profession. In my case, finding a good yoga teacher was hard. Finding a good spiritual teacher was hard. Finding a good judo instructor when I was a little boy was hard. So be extremely discerning about who you work with, especially therapy, especially spiritual practice. These days, these fields, these professions are not regulated, and they're kind of wide open to vast numbers of people that are really not suited to them. I mean, if you just look at the life coaching, so-called life coaching industry, anybody can become a life coach, and almost everybody is, it seems. And I wonder what they do, like, how are they qualified? How are they suitable to guide people through life? I offer free consultation through my website. You can book a 20-minute free consultation if you want to talk one-on-one with me about, how I might be able to help you. So that's an option that's available to you. Daniel, no, I've not written a blog about tobacco, but somebody else has. His name is Bernhard Gunther. I'm going to reply to your comment. If you Google that name and tobacco, I'm sure you'll find that article. If you don't, let me know. I'll find it for you. Natalie says, agree. We are all creating a safe space where the emphasis for trauma to be released goes a long way. Yeah. Hi, Cheryl. Okay, how are we doing? Good. So any questions? I was going to talk a little bit about the essence of yoga. So the essence of yoga is, as I said earlier, it's about turning inwards. Turning inwards is really something that we don't do much these days. In fact, everything in society is geared towards taking our attention out of ourselves. Why? So that we forget that we are the creators of our own reality. So one of the benefits of a serious yoga practice is that you become more and more aware of your power. You get more and more in touch with who you are, and who we are as human beings is superheroes, really. This is why all the superhero movies are so popular these days, because everybody's forgotten that they have superpowers. When we watch a superhero movie, it reminds us of what is possible. It's exciting. It awakens something in us that needs to be awakened. Unfortunately, people are satisfied with just that little taste. And we should be searching for more. If we all search for more, then this world will become a better place very, very quickly. And that's why we're doing what we're doing. So the essence of yoga, the way in which we turn inwards most efficiently and most effectively, is through relaxation. Because relaxation means coming back to ourselves, coming back. What do most people do to relax? A glass of wine, listen to some music, see some friends, go to a movie, entertainment, read a book. All of these things, we're going out through our senses to the outside world, to the music, to the friends. Stimulation through alcohol, stimulation through whatever. Relaxation is actually the opposite. And the art of relaxation is something that I'm going to teach in these classes, and it's a very important thing. So by combining this deep skill of relaxation with an understanding of how to breathe properly and breathing properly, plus, third and finally, concentration of the mind, by bringing the mind into focus, by relaxing into the body, and by deep breathing, what happens is all of the different systems in the body and the mind come together, unite. And this is the real meaning of the word yoga. The word yoga in Sanskrit literally means to yoke. to yoke or to unite, to bring together. And this is the essence of yoga. It's very simple. It doesn't have to be complicated. Everything good in life is simple. So when we combine deep relaxation with proper breathing and the focus of the mind, then that's what happens. The mind and the body and all of the different aspects of our being come together. And the result is that we feel very good. As Kimber was describing at the beginning of this video. Daniel says the body remembers and forgets trauma in different ways and at different times. Do you find tobacco can numb the heart or liberate speech and speaking ability? Should it be used for that or not? There's no should here. You know, everybody's different. Some people's bodies are not so suited to tobacco. Others are. So it's a question of knowing yourself. And I would recommend you get some guidance in the use of the tobacco if you're going to use it as well, because that's good. Any more questions? Yoga related, preferably questions. We've been touching on trauma. We've been talking about tobacco. We've kind of been going in different directions, and that's fine. Any other questions? The yoga class will be at 12 minutes past midday every Saturday, UK time. Hey, Yana. You can pay for the class and you can buy reduced rate package of classes through my website, benralston.org. Yana is asking, Kundalini yoga, do I have any experience with it? I don't actually have, well, depends what you mean by Kundalini yoga. But I know what you mean by Kundalini yoga. There's a kind of a patented type of yoga called Kundalini yoga, which I've never done. Yes, it'll be on Zoom, Cheryl.
All the information is on the website link, which is posted in the comments here, for anybody that's watching and wants more information on the details and logistics of how it works.
Yeah, so I haven't done a Kundalini yoga class. I've met a lot of people who have done Kundalini yoga. I have a few issues with Kundalini yoga because I've seen a number of things about it. A lot of people that do Kundalini yoga, I've noticed they're very spaced out, very kind of ungrounded. And I'm not surprised because I've seen that you can go to a Kundalini yoga class, beginner's class, and you can be immediately given some quite advanced yoga practices. Yoga can be dangerous if it is taught and practiced without the proper understanding, without the proper wisdom. For example, if you start practicing advanced yoga techniques before you've done the necessary preliminary work, for example, just on the most basic level, if you don't warm up your body properly before you start doing advanced asana, advanced postures, you could easily have an injury. So proper warm-up at the beginning of the class is essential. And that's one of the reasons why there are many injuries. Doesn't seem like rocket science to me, but unfortunately that's the way it is. Another way of putting it is that there are advanced techniques that literally stir up the energy body. And if you have blockages, for example, in the lower chakras, for example, as a result of trauma, as I mentioned earlier, then what can happen is that the Kundalini energy can rise and it can't push through those blockages and it can create extreme mental imbalances. And this happens, there are clinics all around the world that are called something like Kundalini crisis clinics. And I know of many people who have had these episodes, these psychotic breaks, which are basically down to the premature awakening of the Kundalini. So a good yoga teacher will always be aware of that and will never give you the advanced techniques before you're ready. For example, bandhas and mudras, especially bandhas. There are many types of yoga classes these days where, and this was the case in one of the classes I went to the other day, the teacher did not even ask us if we knew what the bandha was before she told us to apply the bandha. The bandha means lock. Bandha means lock, and it's an energetic lock or seal that is placed through muscular concentration. Has a very, very powerful influence on the energy body and can awaken. Practice of the bandhas can awaken the Kundalini when it's ready to be awakened. If you do it prematurely, you will experience negative side effects, from tremors in the body to sleeplessness to sweating, all the way through to psychosis. So it's not a joke. And so I suspect that Kundalini yoga is wonderful for most people. I suspect that it's slightly ungrounding for some people, and I suspect that it's dangerous for some people as well. But as I said at the beginning, I don't have direct experience of it, so that's all I'm going to say.
And this yoga is Shivananda. They're asking if you're a clarification on the type you're teaching.
Right. So the style of yoga that I teach is called Shivananda. S-I-V, Shiva, Shivananda. Shiva as in the deity, and Ananda means bliss. Shivananda was the name of a Swami Shivananda in the 50s in India, who's generally considered one of the greatest yogis of all time, a great saint he's considered as in India. His disciple, his student, created the Shivananda Yoga Organization, which is now the biggest, I believe, the biggest worldwide yoga organization. And that's who I trained with. It's a very traditional, very purist approach to Raja Yoga, which incorporates Bhakti Yoga, which is devotional, Jnana Yoga, which is a scientific, philosophical approach, and Karma Yoga, which is about selfless service. So my training in yoga has been incorporating all of these things. Understand that the ultimate goal of any kind of yoga is liberation. Liberation meaning awakening, true, full awakening, enlightenment. And ultimately what that means is disidentifying from one's small self and coming to see the truth, the reality of existence. So Jennifer is asking, have you ever considered writing a letter to your abuser that you do not send? No, I've never considered doing that. I'm assuming you're referring to the abuser, because I have many abusers in my childhood and I've healed them, so I don't feel any need to do anything anymore. I assume you're talking about the sexual abuse that I experienced. The man that abused me was arrested for abusing one of the boys I went to school with. He served time in prison. He's now on the sex offenders register. I have no need to do anything like that, but I understand that is something that can be useful for the healing of an individual. It's not something I did, it's not something I needed to do, but could be useful for you if that's something that you're dealing with. I think the real question is, underlying that is how to heal trauma, how to heal abuse. And I would say to you that there are people that have trained and are expert, I'm one of them, that are professionals and specialized in healing trauma and understand trauma, the intricacies of it, the complexities of it, and all of the ways in which trauma manifests and influences us in our life and in the lives of our ancestors, very importantly. So ultimately the way to heal trauma and to heal abuse is to give it your full attention and ideally work with someone who is specialized in it, because that will save you so much time. If I had had someone to work with like me, I could have saved myself 10 or 15 years of depression and anxiety and addiction and dysfunction and doomed relationships, you know. So ultimately, the answer to the question about abuse is heal it. It's always healable. There's nothing that can happen to you on this planet that you're not meant to heal and that you're not able to heal. The tools are here. The people that can help you are here. Get help. That's the simplest way of doing it, and the most effective way of doing it is get support and get help. And prioritize your healing, because your healing is the key to a good life. Really, that's what it's all about. The inner work. Ashley says, questions on raising Kundalini. Is it wise to encourage friends? No, don't encourage anybody. It's not your business what anybody else does with their Kundalini. The only reason why you would encourage another human being is your ego. I don't mean that to sound harsh, you know, but it's just the truth. Because when you are not operating from a place of ego, then you see every other human being as perfect where they are right now. They don't need to raise their Kundalini. They're on their own path. They're exactly where they're meant to be. No matter how asleep they are, no matter how unconscious you might perceive them to be, they are where they need to be. All is happening perfectly according to what we might call the divine plan. Don't encourage anybody to raise their Kundalini. Everybody's Kundalini will rise up just when it needs to. Right, so I've talked about what kind of yoga I'm doing. I'll talk a little bit about the classes. So every Saturday at 12 minutes past midday, we'll be doing a yoga class. It'll be about 90 minutes minimum, might be about 2 hours maximum. And at the beginning, and we're going to start right on time. So if you sign up for these classes, as a few of you have done already, which is awesome, then turn up early, lie down on your yoga mat after you've set up Zoom, and just relax until the class starts. When the class starts, I'll guide you into about 2 or 3 minutes of relaxation. That's how we start every yoga class and every practice. Why? Because the more relaxed you are when you begin practicing, the more you'll be able to be relaxed in your practice. Imagine you come home from work, have a coffee, hit the yoga mat, and just go straight into a headstand or a sun salutation, you know. You can't possibly relax deeply into the yoga practice under those circumstances. You need to take at least a couple of minutes to just let go of the day, to come back to yourself, to let the stress and the tension in the muscles to release into the ground. So every class begins with a few minutes of guided relaxation. Then we start with some breathing practice, some breath work. Get you deep into your lungs, reoxygenate the body, balance the nostrils, which is to say balance the two brain hemispheres, which is to say balance Ida and Pingala, which is to say balance the masculine and the feminine, which is to say center yourself. Relaxed, oxygenated, centered. Then we go into the sun salutations and we do a really good warm-up. We might sometimes do a slightly gentler warm-up before we do sun salutations, but we spend at least 20 minutes warming up the body, stretching a little bit, getting the heart rate raised. When we're warm, again, we lie down on our backs, we come back to relax until the heart rate is steady again. Then, oxygenated, relaxed, centered, and warm now, we begin to practice the asanas. We do at least 12 classical asanas. We might do a headstand, and those that are feeling like standing on their heads will do the headstand. And for everyone else, I will share some basic introductory practices, exercises to build up towards doing a headstand eventually. Headstand, the Sanskrit name is Sishasana, is the king of, it is known as the king of the asanas. It's a very powerful asana. So I always try to incorporate that in my classes. Shoulder stand, plow, fish. The Shivananda sequence is basically 12 classical asanas. And sequenced in order to work on the chakras in a systematic way, beginning with the crown, going all the way down to the root, and then raising the energy back up as we work through the chakras systematically from the root back up towards the crown, ending with Trikonasana, the triangle pose. At the end of the asana sequence that we practice, we do a good, long yoga nidra. This is, as far as I'm concerned, the most important part of the class, of the practice. And it's also what's missing from the vast majority of yoga classes. The asana practice literally stirs up the energy in the chakras, and it stirs up the energy body, and it activates you as an individual energetically. Wow. And if you finish your yoga practice and you finish by just lying on your back for a couple of minutes and then off you go back into the world, very often what you'll find is that you'll be a little bit jittery, you'll be a little bit ungrounded, you won't be centered because you've activated the right side, you've activated the left side, you've activated the crown, you've activated the solar plexus, and all of these different things are happening simultaneously. So we do a good long yoga nidra. Yoga nidra means yogic sleep. It's a deep relaxation practice that's ancient, and it's the basis of all modern psychosomatic relaxation practices, you know. At the end of the yoga nidra, after 20 minutes of yoga nidra, all of this energetic activation is integrated and grounded in the root, and then you're ready to go back out into the world. And when yoga's practiced in this way, you feel grounded, you feel centered, you feel relaxed, you feel like you've done a good exercise, but you feel completely calm and still internally. Your mind will be focused. It's a completely, I think most people that have been practicing yoga in the West have never had that experience. I believe that to be true. That's Kimber's experience, and many people that I've taught say that to me. They say, wow, I really loved yoga, but now I realize I didn't even know what it was. Yeah, Cheryl says Kundalini yoga with a very good teacher is beautiful. I'm sure it is. I'm sure it is. Lyubika says everything's on point. Thank you. Kundalini, and Natalie, with the Kundalini yoga, it comes back to what you were saying earlier about clearing out the lower energy centers. It brings up a lot quickly, which can be very scary and damaging. It took me years to ground after those classes. Yeah. I mean, look, let's be honest. There's a lot of irresponsible yoga teaching going on. Usually it's not done with any malicious intent. It's just that people don't know. The really irresponsible people that actually I am kind of pissed off about are the ones who are yoga teachers and they're teaching other teachers to be yoga teachers. So they've done some yoga training and now they're teaching yoga, and then they decide, because it's lucrative, that they're going to run teacher training courses. And they're not teaching people properly how to teach yoga. They're just making money. And
that's the majority of how the yoga teachers that we run into are trained. The majority of them are trained from other people that are trained from other people that are trained from other people. We all know how the game of telephone works. Kind of like that.
Yeah, Chinese whispers.
Yeah.
Ashley says, if asked, I mean, I have friends inquiring. Okay, yeah, if people are asking you about it, then share the information with them, but don't, yeah. I mean, look, the reason I answered the way I did was because I used to be don't get me wrong, I'm not criticizing when I talk about ego. We all have an ego. I have an ego. But when I started teaching yoga, I was militant about it. I wanted everyone to do yoga, and I wanted everyone to to do what I was doing, which wasn't very healthy. As I said earlier, I started doing a lot of intense spiritual practice before I'd done any trauma work, and I was a mess. So my answer that I gave earlier is informed by my earlier experience and my mistakes that I made. Um, yeah. Okay. So if you're watching now, do me a favor, like this, give it a love heart or a thumbs up or any kind of emoji so that other people on Facebook see it. Help me basically to
Get the word out.
get the word out. You can also leave a comment, even if you just say hello. It's nice. We know that you're here. And again, that also even more helps to get the word out. You can also use the share button. If you think that what we're doing here is valuable, then share it with your friends on your pages. I'm just waiting to see if any more questions come up. So feel free. That's what we're here for, to answer questions and to share what we can with you. Um, and again, every Saturday from now on, I'll be teaching a yoga class 12 minutes past midday UK time, and everybody's welcome, all ages, all levels of experience. Jan is asking about price. It's £12, 12 GBP per class, or yes, you can buy a package of classes. I think it's £3 for 33 classes for £32, or 5 classes for £50, something like that. So you can do a yoga class for £10. It's pretty good value. And I'm happy to say that a few people have signed up for a class, and it's £12. And synchronistically, after the PayPal commission gets taken out of the thing, what we get is £11 and 11 pence, which we were quite excited to see. Any last questions before we wrap this up?
We hope to see you all next Saturday. It really is an awesome experience. It feels different. This is very clean feeling of clean energy, relaxation, and rejuvenation all at one time. The rest of your day, I can guarantee, is going to feel so much better than usual after doing one of these classes.
Yeah, I remember the first yoga class that I did with a really good teacher, and it literally blew my mind, because I just had never I hadn't felt that connection with myself for such a long time. I didn't have any memory of feeling that deep relaxation, that deep connection to myself, that deep sense of calm and focus. And it showed me what's possible. I had no idea. Yeah, I'll share the website. Oh, Kimber's on it. Okay, there you go, Alexandra. Yeah, my website is benralston, benralston.org. And also, I'll just say that I work with people one-on-one. I offer healing sessions, therapy sessions through Skype or Zoom. And we also, Kimber and I, run an online community, the Sangha. You can have a look at the details of it on my website. And for anyone that is really serious about taking responsibility for their personal development, for their healing, and for their spirituality, I genuinely feel like this is one of the best ways that you can do it, by working with us in the community that we run. I'll just say a little bit about it. We meet up to three times a week through Zoom again. in small groups of up to about 6 or 7 people. And I guide people. We do processes through trauma healing. I share all kinds of spiritual practices and personal development work, healing techniques, and guide people, really guide people and encourage people and support you. You also get the support of the community. It's a like-minded group of people who are all sincere, warm-hearted. It's a really lovely group. There's about 20 of us in there at the moment, so, and we've got room for about 10 more at the moment. So
it's really powerful, magical, and it's hard to describe exactly what it's like, but it's really, really beautiful, especially this day and age, to also have this community element that so many of us have never experienced before, to experience open-hearted sharing and watching and facilitating each other's journey and healing. It's so beautiful and it's so enriching, and the people that are in the Sangha are really progressing amazingly right now, and things are moving fast. It's kind of on fire. We would love to see a few new faces, whoever's called. We want the group to be full, to feel complete, and we're not quite there yet. So if it feels like you, please reach out. We would love to see you there, to have you there, and to have you be a part of this beautiful thing that's happening.
Yeah, it really is. It's all about magic. Everything is about magic. The whole point of this life is that we are basically magicians. Superheroes, magicians, call it what you will. We have superpowers. We're the most powerful beings in the universe. And a human life is such a blessing and such a privilege and such an opportunity. It's a tragedy that so many people go through their lives not knowing what they are, thinking that they're just a sort of a meat sack, a victim, blown around like a leaf in the wind. You know, that's not what we are. We create this reality. We're not born into it. We're not born into a reality that's fixed. We're creating it. Because so many people have forgotten that they're magicians, the magic that we have is being used instead of us using it ourselves. It's being used. It's being used to create illness. It's being used to create corruption. It's being used to create chaos, war, poverty. And when enough of us wake up to who we are, that's what waking up is. It's not anything special. It's just coming to know yourself, know thyself. When you know what you are and you know the power that you have, when enough of us know that, then we will see and come to know that this world is really a paradise. It's a paradise. It's a magical place for us to be in. So people are asking questions. All the information about the sessions and the community group work and the yoga classes, it's all on the website. We've shared the link to the website here. So I think it's time to wrap up. Lots of love from all of us. See you hopefully in a yoga class or in the Sangha or in a live video again soon. Lots of love. Bye.
Bye.
I wanted to say something.
Go on then.
Hold it up.
Well,
Quick.
I just wanted to show you guys how good my raccoon sounds are.
Ah, your favorite animal.
Yes.
Go on, give them a quick raccoon. Okay. I think we have a raccoon in the room.
Official.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.